This morning, protesters clash with police. The Education Minister ducks for cover as the fallout continues over education reforms. Thailand coup, the army and police seize power as Australians are warned to rethink their travel plans. Police swarm the streets of Adelaide as desperate hunt continues for a notorious fugitive. And parts of Melbourne covered in smoke after two huge factory fires this morning.
This is 10 Eyewitness News with Matt Doran.
Good morning. Outrage over the Abbott government's planned education cuts has turned violent at Sydney University. Riot police were called in as Education Minister Christopher Pyne was targeted by protesters furious about the budget. Matt Moran joins us now live from Canberra. Matt, exactly why was Mr Pyne there?
Well, he was there to adjudicate the John Howard Debating Cup. Now, the Sydney University Liberal Club has labelled these protesters a violent fringe group on the extreme left. A blunt message for an education minister under siege at Sydney University. The budget's free-for-all on uni fees, the focus of their fury. Christopher Pyne arrived underground, avoiding confrontation, but students still clashed with police. Riot police brought in as the violence escalated.
I'd estimate about 40 to 50 riot cops, 10 to 15 standard police officers, pushing students indiscriminately, grabbing them. One of them grabbed my dress and hauled me off and pushed me on my breast.
From time to time, people do go too far, and when they do, it should be condemned.
Well, Bill Shorten hasn't condemned it.
That's nonsense.
Bill Shorten has not
Every
condemned
person in the Labor Party condemns violence.
But despite the violence, Mr Pyne claims he didn't really notice the demonstrators.
The protesters are a bit misguided, though, of course, because we're actually trying to spread opportunity and make our universities excellent and give people who don't have a degree the opportunity to go to university.
We believe in making university accessible to all. We do not believe, this shows the sheer lunar hypocrisy of the Abbott government.
Labor says people have a right to be angry.
Today it's confirmed that fees could double under your plan.
The Treasurer was also confronted with protesters in Adelaide.
They say come back, we say people are entitled to protest, but I hope they recognise that taxpayers are paying for their education.
As far as students are concerned, the Coalition's budget sale job isn't cutting through. Now, the Commission of Audit Chief Tony Shepherd has lashed out at the reaction to the budget, saying, that they're just narrow sectional interests. He says it's a sad reflection on modern Australia that people basically aren't taking responsibility, that no one wants to take any cuts. They want everything. But the reality is that just can't be the case in the current budget situation.
Live for us there from Canberra, Matt Moran reporting. Well, police in Adelaide are desperate to find a dangerous fugitive who's forced two schools into lockdown. Rodney Clavel is wanted over several offences, including a firearms charge. Alice Monfries has more.
Yet another Adelaide street was locked down last night as heavily armed Star Group officers swooped on this home in the western suburbs in the search for dangerous fugitive Rodney Clavel. Police had received a tip-off the career criminal could be holed up at this address, but when officers arrived and stormed the house, he was nowhere to be found. 46-year-old Clavel has managed to evade police for 3 days. Yesterday, 2 CBD schools were sent into lockdown in the middle of morning lessons as heavily armed police combed the school grounds looking for the fugitive. Moments earlier, they'd tried to pull over a car he was believed to be a passenger in, but the vehicle sped off and was dumped, and Clavel escaped on foot through the school. He also managed to slip the net the night before when parts of the foothills suburb of Skye were locked down and 2 addresses raided. The wanted former prison guard is dangerous and believed to be armed, and he's fired on police before. He was wounded in a 2004 shootout when he led officers on a chase in a grader. He's since also been convicted of inciting a prison riot and another violent chase. He's wanted this time on firearms charges, and police say they won't give up on the manhunt. They warn anyone helping to hide Clavel that they could face up to 7 years imprisonment themselves.
Alice Monfries reporting there. Well, pro-government protesters in Thailand have warned of retaliation after the country's military staged a coup 3 days after installing martial law. The military has now imposed an all-night curfew. Lucy Watson has the latest.
They're on constant alert, and now they're in control as the military has seized power. Its chief stepping in an attempt to restore order.
Many of you have issues with each other. I would like to tell you that I'm trying my best to restore peace, and please don't be concerned for me. I'm already old. I will take responsibility for all my actions.
Because political turmoil has afflicted this country for months, in a long, drawn-out power struggle. Tensions have boiled over many times between anti-government protesters and supporters of the ousted former Prime Minister Thaksin Shinawatra. And earlier this month, his sister Yingluck Shinawatra, the most recent leader, was also removed from office for alleged abuses of power. Then on Tuesday, martial law was declared.
That is to ensure the public security, which in turn will allow the economic, the social activity to continue.
It's an attempt also to reassure tourists. But still, 2 recent days of talks have failed to reach an agreement, both sides entrenched in their positions. The media is being restricted, regular television programs suspended, and rival factions remain on the streets.
Lucy Watson with that report from Thailand. A huge fire has destroyed 2 factories in Melbourne's southeast this morning. The blaze forced emergency services to issue a smoke warning to residents as dozens of crews fought the inferno. For more details, Chanel Vella joins us now live from Melbourne. Chanel, do we know yet how this blaze started?
Good morning, Matt. Well, exactly how the blaze started still remains very much unknown, but the good news is that it has now been brought under control. The call initially went out to emergency crews just before 4 o'clock this morning, and around 80 firefighters were deployed to the factories in Keysborough, which is in Melbourne's southeast. What we know about the factories themselves is that one of them recycles plastic items, while the other is a car wrecker, and that's the reason why so much black smoke was sent billowing over the area. This, of course, prompted emergency services to issue a smoke warning, urging residents to stay indoors where possible, and also to drivers in the area to drive through that suburb with their windows up.
Good work by the crews down here from both CFA and MFP. They've stopped the fire actually spreading into a cool stores at the rear and another factory to the east side.
It could have been a lot worse.
Could have been a lot worse. Yeah, there was definitely a risk of the other factories, adjoining factories, being involved in the fire. So they've done a great job to stop that happening.
Matt, aerial appliances were also used to bring that blaze under control, and while it's not yet exactly known how much the damage bill is, it is expected to run into the hundreds of thousands of dollars.
And a very big clean-up ahead today. Thanks very much to Chanel Vella there. Well, a mother and daughter have told the Rolf Harris trial the star indecently assaulted both of them at a Newcastle hardware store. Europe correspondent Ben Lewis was in court.
Well, the prosecution case against Rolf Harris is almost complete, but today we heard more claims of groping by the entertainer, a mother and daughter who said that he touched them inappropriately at the same event. The daughter said she was 15 or 16 when she went to the promotional event for British Paints at a hardware store in a Newcastle suburb in 1991. She told the court Mr Harris insisted on giving her a hug, then grabbed her buttocks and breast. I said that he was very handy and that he was a dirty old man, but I didn't want to tell Mum anything more about it. Her mother said she had her own run-in with the artist, accusing him of standing close behind her and rubbing his groin against her bottom. The woman said she confronted Mr Harris, telling him he was a disgusting creature. His alleged response, she liked it, referring to her teenage daughter. When defence lawyers accused the mother of jumping on the bandwagon of women accusing the star of indecent assault, she insisted her claims were true. Rolf Harris knows he's a dirty old man. I have had to carry that burden of putting my daughter in that position. Because the alleged incidents took place outside of Australia, Mr Harris does not face any charges over them. They're just being considered as bad character evidence. The defence case will begin next week. Mr Harris expected to take the stand.
Ben Lewis there from London. Well, a man has been punched and threatened with a gun inside his Sydney home. The 28-year-old had been asleep when a man stormed into his house demanding cash. Christian de Garris has more.
Well, just before 1 o'clock, Mr. Froreich heard his back door being smashed in. He went to investigate and he was confronted by a masked man waving a pistol in his face. He was demanding cash and drugs, but the young father wasn't worried about his own safety. He was worried about his 3 young children sleeping just metres away, including his 6-month-old daughter.
I heard footsteps in the house, and then next moment, doors went open and there was a gun waved in my face.
Now, Mr. Froreich has told us he has no idea why he was targeted. He doesn't use drugs, and the only cash he had was 1 week's wage, and the thief took that. Now, he's happy to stay in the area. He said there's never been any trouble before, but his wife is terrified, and now they're looking to move out.
Christian de Garis reporting there. Well, stay with us. Still to come on 10 Eyewitness News, more details on a kidnapping mystery that shocked a neighbourhood in the US. The terrifying moment a group of children received an electric shock in a public swimming pool. A very special tribute on the anniversary of a murder that shocked the world. And what a catch, the incredible moment a child saved after falling from a window. Welcome back. You're with 10's Eyewitness News. More details are emerging about a decade-long kidnapping that shocked a neighbourhood in California. The woman disappeared when she was 15 but managed to escape using Facebook. Cara Finstrom has the story.
She was a 15-year-old girl in a foreign country, didn't speak the language, and he's an adult that's more than 10 years older than her.
Santa Ana Police Corporal Anthony Bertagna spoke with us about the arrest of 42-year-old Asidio Medrano Garcia, who's suspected of kidnapping his girlfriend's daughter and sexually assaulting her for 10 years. The DA's office is bringing numerous charges, including rape and kidnapping. It maintains just months after the victim, who goes by the name Laura Ortiz, moved here from Mexico to be with her mother. Garcia began grooming her by buying her gifts.
The suspect, who my understanding is, liked to physically abuse the mother, but he was also, while mother was at work, started to sexually assault our victim.
Bertagna said after a dispute at the home in 2004, Garcia followed Ortiz to the park and told her she couldn't go home right away because her mother had called police to have her deported.
He gave her some pills for her headache, and then she woke up the next day in the city of Compton in the garage.
Her mother filed a missing persons report, but Ortiz was never found. Investigators believe Garcia forged fake identity documents for them both, and over the years forced him to marry him and have his child while repeatedly abusing her.
She did, on 2 occasions, the detectives believe, tried to escape. She was caught and beaten for her efforts.
Cara Finstrom reporting there. Well, the trial in Egypt of Australian journalist Peter Gresta has been adjourned until the beginning of next month. Gresta and 2 other men are charged with aiding and abetting a terrorist organisation. The Australian, who works for the Qatar-based Al Jazeera television network, has now been in custody for 20 weeks. An Indian court has postponed a bail application by an Indian national wanted over a hit and run in Melbourne. Puneet was convicted in Victoria for causing the death of a 19-year-old man. He pleaded guilty to culpable driving but fled Australia using a friend's passport. A group of children in Florida have escaped with their lives after the pool they were swimming in became electrified. The terrifying incident was captured on security camera. David Sartar has the story.
It's 3 minutes of video that may make you cringe when you see it. Children unable to escape a pool as it becomes electrically charged. The surveillance cameras of the Palms West Garden Apartments captured a very typical Sunday afternoon at the pool. Kids are playing, parents and grandparents are supervising. Suddenly, something goes wrong. You can see a little girl touch the hand railing and she immediately is shocked. Her father quickly reacts, getting shocked himself as he pulls her out. Her body appears lifeless. As the pool empties out, one child is still attached to the railing, unable to move. Electricity makes your muscles contract. In simple terms, you can't move. That becomes quite clear when Freddie Cabrera enters the video. He reaches in for his granddaughter, Daniela. As he touches her, he feels a charge and falls back, pulling her out. His quick reaction may have saved her life. Today, crime scene tape still surrounds the pool deck. The pool is drained. Thus far, a preliminary investigation has pointed to unconnected ground wires in the pool pump house. The wires are supposedly to take electrical charges to the ground, away from the pool. Crime scene photos show the wires hanging in the air rather than heading towards the ground as they should. CBS 4 reported the pool passed a 40-year inspection last year. We're now learning the pool passed 2 health department inspections last year as well. The inspection forms go well beyond the health of the water, but have boxes and requirements that the pool be up to electrical code. The pool passed, but just 4 months later, this happened.
Just incredible. David Sartar reporting there. Well, hundreds of motorcycle riders have ridden through South London to mark the anniversary of the murder of British serviceman Lee Rigby. The ride past included Greenwich Park, the location of the murder, as well as the barracks where Fusilia Rigby was stationed. 2 Muslim converts were found guilty of his murder and received life imprisonment and 45 years, respectively. British detectives investigating the disappearance of Madeleine McCann say they will begin substantial work on the case in Portugal within weeks. The 3-year-old toddler disappeared while on a family holiday in Portugal in 2007. The British detectives who will be working with Portuguese police are expected to excavate 3 areas on the resort, hoping to unearth some clues. Well, an incredible moment has been caught on camera of a man catching a child who fell from a window in China. It's believed the little boy climbed onto the window ledge looking for his mother. A Good Samaritan who lives across the road held out his arms and miraculously caught the falling baby.
I didn't think too much of it at the time. I was just afraid of failing to catch him. Some people put down cardboard to avoid serious injuries to the baby if I failed to catch him.
The baby boy was returned to his mother without a scratch. Well, time now for sport with Matt Saulo. And Matt, Queensland are very confident they're not going to be caught complacent ahead of Origin 1.
Exactly right, Matt. The Maroons may be easing into training, but they say they're as hungry as ever to continue their record run of Origin wins. It's been a relaxed morning for the Queenslanders, enjoying a swim and a ride, with Greg Inglis addressing concerns the team could be caught off guard by the Blues. We'll hear from him later in sport. Cadel Evans' 3rd place on stage 12 of the Giro d'Italia wasn't enough for him to keep the leader's pink jersey. The Australian drops to 2nd and trails Colombian Rigoberto Urán by 37 seconds, while other riders were lucky to avoid serious injury as the wet weather wreaked havoc. And Formula 1 drivers also had a tough time during practice on the Monaco street circuit. Adrian Sutil's car had to be taken off the track by a crane, while Aussie Daniel Ricciardo was 9th fastest, with Fernando Alonso topping the timesheet. So, Matt, I'll have a bit more sport later on, including AFL, and Rory McIlroy had his first round since dumping Caroline Wozniacki, so I'll let you know how he went.
Excellent. Looking forward to it very much. Thanks, Matt.
Cheers.
Well, joining us now with an update on all the weather details is Amanda Duval. Amanda, we've got nice conditions around the country, a cracker of a day in Sydney.
Good morning, Matt. We have had some beautiful weather across Sydney. Yesterday we got to 27 degrees. Today we've got tops of 26, and this warm weather will continue right into next week. I would not be surprised if this is a record-breaking warm May. As you can see across New South Wales, not a great deal of cloud cover here, although we do have a bit of cloud a little further south. It's thanks to a cold front which started moving through the southeast yesterday. As that clears away, though, we will see an easing trend in the showers. Now, a front that's moving through the southwest of WA has triggered some severe thunderstorms here. In fact, for Perth, we've had 39 millimetres of rain. That front will continue to move in an easterly direction, but we'll see westerly winds in behind that because there's a low pressure system sitting behind that, so driving in some strong showers there as well. Meanwhile, we've still got some onshore winds for the Queensland coastline. So for Brisbane, we'll see 1 or 2 showers, but we're also seeing an upper trough moving across the southern interior. As that gets into the southeast a little later on tonight, we could see a thunderstorm firing up as well. There's that sunny top of 26 for Sydney, 19 and partly cloudy for Canberra. Across Melbourne today, we'll get to tops of 19 degrees. Showers are easing out of Canberra, and that's also the case for Hobart and Adelaide as well. Although in Adelaide, we've really only been seeing the showers around the hills area. We've got a top of 22 degrees in Adelaide today, so that's still 3 degrees above the average. While it's a little cooler here for Hobart, we're getting to tops of just 13 degrees. In Perth, the rainfall is easing. We will still see some showers today, but the storms have let up now, and we've got a top of 21 degrees. Matt?
Thanks very much, Amanda. We'll stay with us. Up next on 10 Eyewitness News, the hunt continues for a notorious fugitive in Adelaide. We'll return live to Canberra after angry students protested outside a university. A Sydney man attacked by an alleged thief with a broken glass bottle. And a truck driver very lucky to be alive after his B-double erupted into flames. This is 10's Eyewitness News. More now on our top story. An outrage over the Abbott government's planned education cuts turned violent at a Sydney university. Matt Moran joins us now live from Canberra. Matt, just how tense was this situation?
Well, there was a lot of anger there. Christopher Pyne was there to adjudicate the John Howard Debating Club. Now, the Sydney University Liberal Club have basically condemned these protesters, saying it's a violent fringe group on the extreme left. And Christopher Pyne claimed he didn't even really notice these protesters, but they certainly made their thoughts known. Let's have a listen.
I'd estimate about 40 to 50 riot cops, 10 to 15 standard police officers, pushing students indiscriminately, grabbing them. One of them grabbed my dress and hauled me off and pushed me on my breast.
The protesters are a bit misguided, though, of course, because we're actually trying to spread opportunity and make our universities excellent and give people who don't have a degree the opportunity to go to university.
We believe in making university accessible to all. We do not believe, you know, this shows the sheer lunar hypocrisy of the Abbott government.
Now, Matt, we are set to see more demonstrations over this budget. No one at the moment is giving any ground.
Certainly looks that way. Thanks very much to Matt Moran there. Well, Prime Minister Tony Abbott is in southwestern Sydney this morning, visiting a local police station in Campbelltown. Mr Abbott is vowing to boost security in the area. Joe Hill joins us now from Campbelltown. Joe, what has the Prime Minister announced?
Well, Matt, the budget cell certainly rolls on, and Tony Abbott is definitely hitting for the heartland with this announcement. He made it very specific. It's $350,000 for 20 security cameras here in Campbelltown in Western Sydney. Now, it is part of a broader Safer Streets program that'll see around $50 million dedicated to projects across Australia. The funding all comes from the proceeds of crime as well. Now, Mr Abbott took a tour of the Campbelltown police station here. He viewed a number of the security camera operations that are currently up and running, and he says that the Safer Streets initiative is just good for boosting safety in the community.
This is a very important part of doing the right thing by local people. This is a very important part of trying to make a difference to the lives of the people of Australia.
As he probably will have to do for some time yet, Matt, the PM once again defended his budget, saying that it is a good budget and that it will actually be looked back on as a watershed budget in Australian history.
He has a tough sell ahead before that. That's Joe Hill reporting there from Campbelltown. Well, South Australian police are continuing the hunt for one of Adelaide's most wanted men. Police searched a home in the city's southwest last night after reports of a sighting, but Rodney Clavell was not inside. The dangerous fugitive forced 2 schools into lockdown yesterday and has evaded police twice. The former prison guard is wanted for a number of offences, including firearm matters. Residents in Melbourne's southeast have been advised to stay indoors after a huge fire sent smoke billowing over homes. More than 20 crews battled the blaze, which threatened neighbouring properties. For more details, Chanel Vella joins us from Melbourne. Chanel, has this blaze been controlled?
Good morning, Matt. Well, the good news is that the blaze has now been controlled, but exactly how it started is still being investigated. The call went out to emergency crews just before 4 o'clock this morning, and around 80 firefighters were deployed to the factories in Keysborough, which is in Melbourne's southeast. What we know about these factories is that one of them is a recycling plastic factory, while the other is a car wrecker, and that is the reason why there was just so much black smoke sent billowing over the surrounding areas. This, of course, prompted emergency services to issue a smoke warning for those living around the factories, and they also urged people to stay inside, as well as drivers in that area to drive through with their windows up.
Good work by the crews down here from both CFA and MFB. They've stopped the fire actually spreading into a cool stores at the rear and another factory to the east side.
It could have been a lot worse.
Could have been a lot worse. Yeah, there was definitely a risk of the other factories, adjoining factories, being involved in the fire. So they've done a great job to stop that happening.
Matt, it's not yet known exactly how much the damage bill will be, but it is expected to reach the hundreds of thousands.
Chanel Vella reporting there live from Melbourne. A truck driver is being praised for his quick thinking after his B-double caught fire in Brisbane. The driver heard an explosion before his rig became engulfed by flames early this morning on the Gateway Bridge. He managed to escape unharmed. Police closed northbound lanes for 2 hours. It's not yet known what sparked the blaze. A customer has been attacked by a man armed with a broken glass bottle during a robbery in Sydney's west. Just after 12:30 this morning, the alleged thief entered a petrol station at Mount Druitt demanding cash. A customer paying for fuel was struck with glass as he tried to push the offender outside. The attacker ran off, leaving the customer with cuts to his wrist. Police are currently reviewing security footage and have urged anyone with information to come forward. Well, Qantas is reportedly considering a plan to remove life rafts from some flights as it tries desperately to rein in spending. The proposal has outraged pilots and cabin staff who claim it places passengers' lives at risk. Reporter Jonathan Lee is following this story. Good morning, Jono. Has Qantas responded at all?
Not at this stage, Matt. Qantas is looking to remove those life rafts from 737 flights which don't travel between Australia and New Zealand, so effectively planes which fly over Australia. Now, under aviation law, they don't require the rafts unless the planes travel further than 400 nautical miles out to sea. It's estimated that removing the rafts could save around $1 million a year in fuel costs, and not surprisingly, those aboard the planes, the pilots and the cabin crew, are outraged. Now, the airline is struggling financially. The latest figures indicate that profit margins are down 74% in the first half of this financial year. Now, their losses have ballooned out to around $235 million. Now, they are currently in a war between Virgin with flights and costs. Now, at this stage, Qantas says it hasn't made a decision on if it will remove the life rafts. It says it's not willing to compromise safety. How far it's willing to go to save that extra dollar, Matt, remains to be seen.
Jonathan Lee live there in Brisbane. Well, an unusual tourist attraction in California is drawing record crowds eager for a sticky beak at an equally sticky wall. Bubblegum Alley recently made the shortlist for the 8th wonder of the world, and Emma Dallimore went up for a look.
Welcome to a germaphobe's nightmare.
Don't touch the wall.
In the middle of a quaint Californian town is this 20-metre long, 5-metre high depository for used gum.
Well, it looks pretty disgusting, I have to say. It kind of freaked me out to be here.
But they keep coming to leave their own sticky mark in the famous Bubblegum Alley.
Oh. Oh, right next to the Corona, yeah! Woo!
That is my spot in history now. I am forever in history. My legacy will live on in the alley of gum.
It's believed this all started as early as the 50s, a tradition among graduating students that bubbled and burst and is now a cringeworthy must-see. Over the decades, second-hand chewy has become alleyway art, a way to leave messages and find impressive new ways to take it all too far.
But we've had people lick the wall all the way down. We've had people take pieces of gum off and eat it for themselves.
It is gross. It's just like, ugh.
But the alley did just make a shortlist as the 8th wonder of the world, despite calls across the years to scrape it all away.
I've known people that don't like it, but they don't have to walk down here.
The alleyway has been hosed clean at least twice in its lifetime, but it keeps coming back. And it's so popular that the last attempt to get rid of it in the early 90s was actually voted down by locals. So, as disgusting as it is, it looks like it's here to stay. Ugh. The next-door neighbours now just figure if you can't beat it, join it.
All in all, it's a really good attraction and everything. We're glad to have it.
And I know as teenagers, we probably stuck, I don't know, hundreds of pieces of gum in this alleyway. And so I was just bringing my kiddos to show them part of the legacy of being from the Central Coast.
Cool or gross?
Gross.
Gross. In San Luis Obispo, Emma Dallimore, 10 Eyewitness News.
Just wow. There you have it, the 8th wonder of the world, Emma Dallimore with that report. Well, still to come on 10 Eyewitness News, we'll check how the market's performing in the early trade. We'll tell you the latest reason why scientists say red wine is good for you. And could this be the most romantic proposal ever? The guy who went around the world to pop the question. Welcome back. You're with 10's Eyewitness News. New research out of Spain has revealed a dentist's most unlikely ally, the humble glass of red wine. A study published in a food chemistry journal revealed grape seed extract can in fact prevent cavities. It's hoped the breakthrough could lead to new products to ward off dental diseases. It is estimated that between 60 to 90% of the world's population suffers from some form of dental disease. Well, a Gold Coast mega mansion has hit the market and it's poised to break the Strip's record house price. The property features an airstrip, guest house, heated diving pools, fishing dams, what would a mansion be without fishing dams, and even a panic room. Jet boat builder Preston Richardson and his wife spent the past 2 years redeveloping the house, but it could be yours for just a cool $20 million. Well, to afford that, you'll need a good handle on the market, so let's take a look at those now. The ASX has opened higher, up 13 points. Gold is 1,294 US an ounce, while oil is trading at 103 US a barrel. One Aussie dollar will buy you 92 US cents. Well, surgeons in London are using the very latest technology to teach the next generation of doctors. Catherine Jones explains how Google Glasses are changing our day-to-day lives.
This operation today a world first by offering interactive online training to medical students across the globe.
The first thing you'll notice is loops of small bowel.
The surgeon at the Royal London Hospital was wearing a Google Glass headset.
This chap has a cancer.
This is the view the device captured and streamed live on the internet. Students watching could type questions, which were projected into the corner of the surgeon's field of vision so he could answer them while he worked.
Those are the three structures that are commonly at risk during these procedures that one would worry about. So hopefully that answers the question.
Operations like this are live streamed to lecture theatres and medical conferences for training. The difference here is that any medical student anywhere in the world can log in and learn. The simplicity and low cost of this approach means demonstrations of best practice like this would be available to surgeons at a much earlier stage of their training.
They're seeing an operation live. They'll also be able to talk to me via the text messages coming up on my screen as we speak and getting the answers they need. So it is, although we have a lot of live operations, they don't have to get that interactivity, particularly at student level.
Today's operation was followed live by 1,900 students in more than 50 countries, and the Royal College of Surgeons welcomed the event as a glimpse of the great potential of the technology.
Catherine Jones reporting there. Well, an American uni student might have just pulled off the most romantic proposal ever. When Jack met Rebecca back in 2010, he knew he would one day marry her. So, over the next 4 years, as he travelled around 26 countries, he filmed part of a video he would one day use to pop the question. Gee, that is setting the benchmark dangerously high. And it's probably no surprise she did say yes. Well, our very own Romeo, Matt Sulo, joins us now for a look at sport. Matty, I want to talk Origin. The Maroons are pretty confident in their build-up.
Yeah, they certainly are. But you're getting ready to propose, eh? Do you want to say anything first?
No, absolutely not. Let's get on with sport.
Oh, we'll get straight on to sport because the Maroons say there's no reason to change the relaxed lead-up that has worked for them in the past. The Queensland is enjoying a swim and a bike ride this morning. We'll hear from Maroon star Greg Inglis next. Plus, how this rider avoided serious injury as wet weather caused chaos at the Giro d'Italia. And what's got Rory McIlroy smiling after dumping fiancée Caroline Wozniacki. Welcome back. Queensland feel comfortable. Their subdued lead-up won't pose a problem come next Wednesday's Origin opener. While the Blues have had booze-free bonding sessions and their first day off, the Maroons return to the track after 2 days off, enjoying everything on offer at Sanctuary Cove.
We aren't little kids, we are grown men, and you know we do know what's right and what's wrong and when to say no, and that's enough. So, you know, but you have to answer the big man if you do stuff up, so that's a pretty scary sight. So.
Queensland don't expect any surprises from the Blues' new halves pair of Josh Reynolds and Trent Hodkinson. Meanwhile, the West Tigers are desperate to keep young gun James Tedesco at the club, throwing big bucks at him. The fullback was spotted coming back from visiting Canberra headquarters.
We've made a massive offer for him, and for 4 years we're trying to make a long-term commitment for Teddy and not play with players you grew up with and to not play in your local area and to not be part of that team. It's a big decision to move, and that's it's probably putting more pressure on him than he needs.
The West Tigers take on the Broncos tomorrow, while round 11 kicks off tonight between the Bulldogs and Roosters. In the AFL, it's round 10 starting tonight in Geelong as the Cats host the Kangaroos. Meanwhile, Richmond forward Jack Riewoldt says he's learned his lesson after criticising the Tigers' game plan and is looking forward to facing the Giants tomorrow.
I said yesterday in the tweet, guys, look, I was disappointed. I'll see how it came out, but move on. Caught my whack and just looking forward to playing footy this weekend, so thanks.
Luke Hodge returns for Hawthorn's top-of-the-table clash against Port Adelaide, while Adam Goodes has congratulated Essendon fans for taking a stand against racist supporters. Adam Scott's stint as world #1 might last just a week after a one-over start at the Crowne Plaza Invitational in Texas. He sits 6 shots off the lead, and a poor weekend could see the Australian relinquish the crown to Henrik Stenson or Matt Kuchar. Rory McIlroy's had a good first round since dumping fiancée Caroline Wozniacki. The Northern Irishman might have had cold feet ahead of the wedding, but he was red hot on the 7th hole.
Go on, in you go, in you go, in you go, yeah! Well, we've been waiting to see something like that all day.
McIlroy sits at 4 under, 6 shots behind Thomas Bjorn, who equalled the course record, shooting at 10 under 62. Cadel Evans has stumbled on stage 12 of the Giro d'Italia, losing the overall leader's pink jersey. The Australian started the individual time trial with a 57-second lead, but numerous errors cost him valuable time.
On the corners again. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear.
Evans was 3rd fastest, but Rigoberto Urán's stage win was enough to claim a 37-second lead. The treacherous conditions ended another rider's tour. Thankfully, Tobias Ludvigsson didn't break any bones after crashing over a railing. F1 drivers couldn't blame the conditions during opening practice ahead of the Monaco Grand Prix. The tight street circuit was very tight around and caught several drivers out, with officials needing a crane to remove Adrian Sutil's car off the track. Aussie Daniel Ricciardo was 9th fastest in his Red Bull, while Ferrari's Fernando Alonso topped the timesheets. Qualifying is tomorrow night, and you can see all the action live and exclusive on One. Make sure you check your local guides. And the Matildas have defeated South Korea 2-1 to reach the Asian Women's Cup final. Australia's lead didn't last long after a questionable penalty. Elise Keller-Knight then provided the decisive strike 14 minutes from full time.
There's no touch off Sam Kerr, but her presence was very handy indeed. And Elise Keller-Knight has her first goal at international level, and it's a priceless one.
The Matildas will look to defend their title against Japan on Sunday. We've been talking a lot about the boys ahead of the World Cup. Great to see the girls doing well as well, Matt.
Absolutely, they're killing it. Thanks
Exactly.
very much, Matt.
Thanks.
All right, well, coming up next on 10 Eyewitness News, we'll check the national weather forecast with Amanda Duval.
Good morning. The weather has probably been the most unsettled over the past 24 hours than we've seen in a number of days. We've got a strong cold front that's moving through the southwest of WA, and that's actually triggered some severe weather. We've been seeing gusty winds and some heavy downpours as well. Meanwhile, a weak cold front has been clearing the southeast. It has brought through a few showers and has certainly caused some cooler conditions across Tasmania. But a little further north of that, this high pressure system has been dominating much of Australia and allowing for some clear skies and some very warm temperatures. It's also been directing onshore winds for the Queensland coast, though, so we have been seeing persistent showers here, but now we're going to start seeing a few thunderstorms coming through as well. We've got a trough moving through the upper levels of the atmosphere, so showers and thunderstorms in the Channel Country are contracting eastward. They'll reach the far southeast of the state by this evening. So for Brisbane, we could see an evening thunderstorm. So throughout the day across the central and southern interior as well, we'll see some isolated showers and storms. But thanks to those onshore winds, the showers will continue for the east coast, and if few of those will also get into the eastern interior. In Longreach, we'll get to tops of 29 degrees with a possible thunderstorm, particularly throughout the afternoon. Now, for New South Wales, some of those showers and storms do get down into the northeast of the state. Elsewhere, it's pretty much dry conditions, apart from in the far south. Thanks to that weak cold front that's moving through the southeast, we will get some showers just getting across the border into southern parts of New South Wales. They'll be most frequent, though, across the western slopes of the ranges. Elsewhere, it is very warm. Temperatures about 7 degrees above average for many places. This could bring us some record warmth for this time of year for many towns across New South Wales. It's also been quite warm in Victoria. Despite that front moving through, we've had some showers, but they've all been contracting eastward throughout the day. This afternoon, though, we could still see a few thunderstorms across northern parts of the state, but we'll notice a bit of an easing trend in any showers elsewhere. Now, for Tasmania, we're seeing dry conditions for the northern areas. Elsewhere, we are getting showers, but by this evening, they will ease right back, contracting mainly back to just the far west and also the northeast of the state. The Launceston will get to a max of 17 degrees here with a little bit of cloudy conditions at times. Now, for South Australia, we're still getting some thunderstorms through the northeast of the state, and also in the far south we've still got some light showers, but everything is easing right back as that contracts a little further east as well. Temperatures here still remain above average, and that has been the trend for a number of weeks now, and it looks like that will continue for a good another 5 or 6 days to come. Now, for Western Australia, the weather has been very unsettled here. We've actually had severe weather in the southwest of the state. We've had thunderstorms bringing gusty winds and some heavy downpours as well. That will start easing back a little later on this evening. And for Darwin, we've got clear skies and sunny conditions also for Alice Springs. But let's see what's ahead for the week to come. In Brisbane, we'll get some thunderstorms coming through by this evening. Showers will continue throughout the day, and tomorrow we'll see the chance of a morning shower, but then drier conditions for the rest of the afternoon. The weekend, in fact, is looking quite nice with tops of 27 degrees. In Sydney, we've got another day of sunshine. 26 degrees is 7 above average, and those temps will remain well above average for the next week to come. We're likely to see our warmest May on record. It's also warm across Canberra. That's a few degrees above average and dry for the next 5 days to come. While across Melbourne, we could see a couple of showers lingering into tomorrow morning, and they will develop again in the afternoon or evening on Saturday night with tops of 17 degrees and a brief shower on Sunday. For Hobart, tomorrow will be a cool one. We'll only get to 13 degrees again, and showers will linger for the next few days to come. For Adelaide, we're going to see drier conditions for your weekend, but for Perth, with some cold fronts moving through the southwest, showers will continue across the weekend. Matt?
Thanks very much, Amanda. Well, updating today's top stories now, and angry protesters have clashed with police at a university as students fight against the federal government's proposed education reforms. The streets of Thailand are being described as volatile after a military coup was declared. And firefighters have had a tough job on their hands battling 2 factory fires in Melbourne. And just before we go, we must say it's with great amount of sadness that we say that was the final morning edition of 10 Eyewitness News. If you might indulge me, just a few very quick thank yous. I couldn't wrap up without thanking the team of brilliant insomniacs who've worked tirelessly and feverishly to put this bulletin to air, morning and early morning news over the past 7 months. They have been brilliant. Special thanks must go to our producers, Reid and Georgie, who have done a tireless job. So that is 10 Eyewitness News for now. We will have updates throughout the afternoon and, of course, all the day's news at 5. Thanks to the viewers too for tuning in.